Warning. This program contains frank and mature discussions intended to educate and advocate on the subjects of sexuality, sex, and gender and body positivity. Due to the nature of the topics being discussed, this may include subject matter and language that some may find offensive. This program is intended for adults only. If you are under the age of 18, if such material offends you, or if it is illegal to view such material in your community, please exit now.
Brown chicken, brown cow. 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 This is fun. Brown chicken, brown cow. Brown chicken, brown cow. Welcome to the Brown Chicken, Brown Cow Show. I am Sean Monkey Mackany. I'm really happy to be here, everyone. This is kind of an exciting day for me because you get to meet somebody brand new to the show. Really? You're gonna scoff at me?
Yeah, I'm gonna scoff at you. That's
You haven't. Well, you've been behind.
First interaction.
Yeah, your first interaction with me is just scoffing. You're not pointing and laughing. I feel like I'm ahead of the game. It's fantastic. It's coming. You've been behind the scenes on Brown Chicken, Brown Cow. Why don't you tell us what all the things that you've done?
What have I been doing? So I've been doing the Facebook Live recordings. I kind of show up and make faces at everybody in hopes of distracting them and making you guys have a little more fun while you're on camera. I do some of the behind-the-scenes communication. They have me write things up sometimes in terms of summaries when we have folks on the show, and I think that's it.
And now you've been elevated to co-host.
Yeah.
That is awesome.
Yep.
So
I'm pretty excited.
Yeah, I can tell.
Is that better?
Yeah, you can. Yeah, and a little dance. That's nice. That's nice. So, the madam, if we may throw some attention her way, she dressed particularly provocative today. You're not going to get to see it on camera. I'm sorry, but she did this for me apparently to just make me blush nonstop.
Yeah.
And
she brought a monkey.
And she has
she has more than one.
So we have monkeys, we have brown chickens and brown cows.
I'm curious what the other ones are for personally. Like, are they just going to pop out?
Yeah. I didn't know this show was turning plushy. So, at least that's keeps in theme. We're inclusive,
Yeah.
exactly. We have a really fun show today.
We do. I'm pretty excited.
Yeah, so we have a number of interviews. And we're going to be talking about what BDSM is, a little bit about what kink is, how to get started, where to look.
Yeah.
You know what? We forgot the toys. Where were the toys?
Oh, they're around somewhere.
They're around. I'll show you some toys. One of my Oh, jeez. Really?
We'll just flow the blushes your way.
Just blush.
Continue.
Freaking blush. Okay. One of my partners gave me a bunch of her toys to show off today. The reason is I was playing with one last week, and I'm vanilla. I don't get into the spanking and stuff. And so I picked it up, and I swatted my hand, and that son of a bitch hurt. Oh, my God.
I almost cried. It was actually pretty funny.
There were tears.
Because I think our response was, why did you do that?
Yeah. There was a lot of mocking involved.
There was. That's
a
lot of your life.
So she just gave me a lot of hell. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I can go find those toys if that's what you would like. Or we can come back to them later.
After a break, we'll pull them out
right.
to do a little show and tell. But it's really fun stuff. Really, she has a rather large collection of items.
Yeah. Do we want to talk about who we're going to have on the show a little bit?
Yeah.
Maybe you could introduce a few.
No. Why don't you introduce some people as one of your first?
I think you should introduce.
No.
them.
I think you. Why are we getting into this fight?
Because I don't remember who we have on the show. Right. So our first person, we're going to be talking to Summer. She has a munch group that's for newbies in the kink community. So we're going to talk a little
munches?
bit. Yeah, we're going to talk a little bit about where can you go to get some answers about the kink community and BDSM and other things, and a little bit about munches and what they are. And
after that, we're actually going to bring Summer back with John to learn more about the master-slave dynamic in BDSM. You know what? We have an amazing comedian. We actually had her on the show earlier this month. We had a little podcast with her. She did a fantastic job. That was amazing. Rebecca Blanton. So... So she's
going to tell us some jokes and entertain us. I'm pretty
jokes
excited
and entertain
for
us.
that.
Well, we already have you dancing, so wow, this show is becoming real round. Oh,
Yeah.
dear.
I told you I was gonna have to work really awkward jazz hands.
You got your awkward jazz hands.
100%.
Who else do we have on?
We also have Richard Sprott,
Sprott.
and we're going to talk a little bit about some resources, resources out there in terms of mental health and the kinky community. And I'm pretty excited to learn more about that later on in the show.
And then we have some other things like donut time and more making fun of Monkey and stuff like that.
We would never make fun of you. We love you.
Oh, that's so sweet. Oh, dear. The studio audience can see what's going on. It's nice, isn't it? Yeah. Oh.
But she's so innocent over there.
She's not so innocent.
You don't know.
I do know. The madam is not innocent. Part of the reason that she is named the madam is just so I have to call her the madam. Yeah, that was one of the agreements of the show.
It was a pretty interesting negotiation, I think.
Yeah. And so, welcome to the show. We're going to have a great time this afternoon. We're going to learn a lot of things about kink and BDSM and just a whole bunch of stuff and have some fun and laugh. And are we ready to go to a little break?
Yeah.
We're going to go straight to summer?
Well, I would just like to note that the monkey blush meter is already at 2, and we've only been here for 5 minutes, so it should be a good show. Keep watching, folks.
We hit 27 last show. I bet you can beat it.
I'm going to control. We're not going to make me blush as much. Dear. Why?
Now you're like in the middle of
Yeah,
it, so
I see what's going on there.
Yeah. That is the best outfit for the show. It really, really is.
Now you're making them jealous because they can't see it. So
Well, I can't.
too bad for them.
help
Yeah.
that. I know.
So anyway, you ready to get started?
Oh yeah, I am ready. Did you just make your monkey cheer?
Yeah, I did make my monkey cheer. Okay, we'll be right back with Summer. I know.
I'm sorry for him.
I know. Don't get me wrong. Don't get me wrong. She does it all the time. Yeah, I adore you too. Yeah.
If Jesselie could be here for this moment. I'm just saying. I'd love to see your face.
Jesselie would freak out. It's okay. So that was for you, Jesselie. So the little monkey's going to sit with
We really need to give
Miss
him a
Laura.
name.
Oh, the little
throughout the
monkey?
show, yeah.
Okay, we'll come up with something for that.
Gotta think on
or
it.
or the fans can find some name
Yeah.
for him. Welcome back. We're sitting here with Summer. Hi, Summer.
Hi.
Hello.
Let's just go ahead and get started.
Okay.
Well, can Summer tell us a little bit about herself? I mean, we've already introduced her, but what do we need to know about you? to start with?
My name is Summer. I'm a total power exchange 24/7 slave. My master's here. You guys will meet him later. I'm a filmmaker. I'm still a student. Yeah, it's pretty much my whole life is either BDSM or school or film. Pretty much me.
Okay.
Awesome.
So, what is a munch?
Yeah.
So a munch is where people go to gather in a public space where they can talk about BDSM or just hang out basically with each other. And we use it as a way for everybody to meet each other. So when people want to go out into the community, instead of running straight into a dungeon full speed, they're allowed to come to these munches, and it's just gathering where people most of the time eat, have drinks. There could be classes, there could be just a social gathering, it could be any of those things.
Okay. Go ahead.
So I was going to ask, so what's unique about the munch that you run?
What's unique about the munch that my master and I run is it's just not just for new people, but that's what we're geared towards. We have 6 classes that are on a rotating schedule, and they basically stream from safety to finding a BDSM relationship, and then to negotiating that BDSM relationship, and basically how to get that all started so that you can have the best relationship you can and find partners that you can play with, find love, relationships, fun, whichever.
Sounds awesome.
Nice. So you're basically setting up an environment where people are going to be able to succeed,
Yes.
finding relationships, how to build the communication structures, what to expect, and what it is that you really want from this type of
Yeah,
situation.
and how to be safe. Like
very
that's a really big focus for us. So at the beginning of all of our classes, we do what every new person should know, and a lot of it talks about maintaining your personal privacy, staying safe in the community, not going to somebody's house when you meet them, and certain things not to do, and what to look for in people that may not be right. Like it may not look right, or it may not be right for
And that's
them.
what's really nice about the munch then, right? Because there's a space that's safe. You can go and be vetted, or people can get to know you.
Absolutely.
And the elders or the people that have been there a while they have a really strong feeling about new people coming in too, I'm sure.
So we have our veterans that come out that run other groups, like so our rope group or any kind of other, like there's a dominant submissive group that's male top, female bottom based. Everybody can come out basically, and they can meet the people, and they can say, well, here's our experience, and here's what you can learn from us, and here's how you can get vetted to our group, so you can come to our private gatherings, because a lot of the times they'll be at somebody's house, like the dungeons are people's houses.
Yeah.
Or, but you have to be vetted to go to those locations. So they want to meet you and make sure you're not crazy.
So is this newbie type of, like, this newbie munch, is that what you call it?
Yeah,
Newbie
we
munch?
call it the
Okay.
Sacramento
Just make
newbie
sure I'm not
munch.
using the right.
No. We call it the
wrong
Sacramento
terminology.
newbies, but we call it the newbie munch.
So is that something that's, like, exciting and different for the Sacramento area, or is that something that people can find kind of
Well,
in the kink community?
What we've heard, what my master and I have heard from different communities is a lot of smaller communities don't necessarily have a new group. My master tells a story often. It took him, I think, about 6 months for him to even see where there were different groups, see where there were dungeons, do different things. It took him so long when he first came in that's why it was basically his idea to start this group. And then he wanted to round it out with an S-type, which was lucky enough to be me. So that's it. In like San Francisco, Society of Janus, they have a newbie group. We've talked to people that were out of Stockton and other places. They don't have one. So it's not rare in bigger areas, but we felt like in Sacramento it needed it. People needed this group, and there were a lot of people that were doing things wrong. They were getting hurt. They didn't have anywhere to go to learn new things, and there weren't too many classes going on in the community. So that's what we wanted to bring to it. He initially approached this as, I want to teach the community, and he says, and I want you to teach it with me.
That's awesome. So yeah, you're making positive change in this direction. In the people can come to you, explore it, see if they want to make it part of their world, their life, or just maybe taste and see if it's something that would
Absolutely
attract them to it. So it's a beautiful thing that you're doing for the community.
Yeah.
What?
So if someone's like new to the community and they want to go to your munch, how do they find
So
it?
they can find us on FetLife. If people know, that's the fetish website, FetLife. We have a huge group there. You just look it up, Sacramento Newbies. It'll come up in the search. You join that group, and then you can watch for when we post events. Our events are the second Tuesday of the month, every single month. We're changing locations right now. We were meeting at a pizza place, and that's where we were teaching. We were, prior to that, we're meeting at a coffee shop. That coffee shop has closed since then. So that we're pretty consistent. Second Tuesday of the month, every month, except for like December or something, we may pull back from that month because of holidays or whatever, but we're very consistent.
Awesome.
Now, personally, I've been to a couple of munches, but I remember the first polyamory group I went to, had no idea what I was getting into, right? Is it going to be freaky people? What's going on? My first polyamory party, is this going to be a sex party? I don't know what's going on, that type of thing. What type of weird stuff am I stepping into? This world's interesting to me, but I didn't know what to expect. So if somebody's coming to a meeting for the first time, what do you have any recommendations for them feeling safe and comfortable?
Actually, what we do is we can meet people out in the parking lot.
Oh.
We have it said on the Sacramento Newbies web, the little group. It says, if you're scared to come in, shoot me or my master a message. We will meet you out by your car. We'll introduce ourselves and we'll walk you in.
Nice.
You will have, so everything that we do it together, and we want everybody to be included. We do what we call like a dungeon field trip. So for new people that's never been to a dungeon, we go there together and we meet out in the parking lot as a group and we go in together.
Nice.
So that we can show, just inclusivity.
Well, that sounds like a great support resource too for people who might be more shy, who are in the community or interested in
We've
trying
walked
new
people
things.
in.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So there's a lot of vocabulary around the kink and BDSM communities and stuff like that. Do you mind defining some of these for me?
Oh, sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
How about top and bottom? Let's start there.
So top and bottom is what we think of as bedroom only. When you're in the bedroom, it's the roles of who's going to be the aggressor and who's going to be the non-aggressor. So that would be our top, and then the bottom would take more of the submissive role, so dominant and submissive role. But top and bottom we feel are play and sex-based only, bedroom only.
Okay.
So then what's the difference, like when we're talking about dominant versus submissive? How do
So-
you find those?
Dominance and submission and master and slave are on, and so is top and bottom, but they're on a scale. So we have a slideshow that shows this really cool different colored scale that we go based off of. So dominance and submission is basically of like, if you were going to be my submissive, I would say, what things can we talk about that I can control? Like, can I control your school and, your diet? Everything else is off the table. I won't have control over any of that. With a master slave, though, it's what do I not have control over. It's easier to say what I don't have control over as opposed to all the million things that I do have control over.
Okay. How about here's another couple of terms I've heard. Daddy, mommy.
Okay, so that's more of a a daddy is somebody and a mommy is somebody who will take care of what could be a little, like a person that may be younger or act younger or identify younger, and then a daddy is somebody that would basically kind of take care of them and tuck them in for bed and give them blankies and stuff.
So it's like age regression type of situation where the person wants to maybe explore a younger mindset with.
Yes, definitely with a safe environment, and there are people out there who have that. We have a littles group in Sacramento. We have I don't know if we have a daddies group in Sacramento or a top group for that, but I knew we do have a little space.
Okay.
What about like pony and trainer? What?
So that's more of a play-based. I'm not super familiar with that because I've never done it. I'm very interested in pony play though. But it's just basically like you teach them how to stand certain ways, how to hold their body certain ways. It's kind of that.
From what I understand, there's also a lot of tools because horses have a lot of.
So much gear.
You have hooves, you have the bits, you have the bridles and the whips and leads and all these other things. So
there's a lot of gear that goes into that.
Here's one that we had a podcast on recently. Someone who was on our show, she was a performer and she did boot blacking.
Okay, yeah, my best friend is actually a boot black. So she gets off, on servicing leather. She's so good at it too. And there was a boot blacking group, but we do have resources of people who can find boot blacks through the Bolt in Sacramento. There's an international and a Northwest boot black competition. There's so much out there for people who want to do that. But it's basically the people who get off on taking care of leathers and that kind of stuff. And that's service. Like, those type of people are very service oriented. They love to serve other people.
That brings up the question, servicing. That's almost a whole separate grouping within the community.
Yeah, there's people who do service, and it's non-sexual, and then there's people who do service for sexual reasons. So it's a very big spectrum.
And can we talk about what does service mean in the sense of kink and BDSM?
Service can mean anything from coming to somebody's house and cooking and cleaning, or to there's what are they called? Service bottoming. So somebody who's not necessarily a masochist, and a masochist is somebody who gets off on being beat. They like it. So there's somebody that's like me. I'm not a masochist. I don't like pain, but I will take it because it's a service to my master.
I'm sorry, Madam was you might have seen her over my shoulder doing something with a couple of monkeys.
Oh my.
Oh yeah.
I know. You don't have to tell me.
Monkey play.
She's just got it out for me. Yeah.
This is getting quite graphic over there.
What's going on over there? I don't want to look.
Just look, it's fine.
I don't want to. Okay, I'll look. Oh. I know, yeah. You want a hug? Okay. All right. Moving back. All right.
Do I need to separate you?
You separate me from. She's trying to just make me unhinge. See, sometimes on the show we derail, and it's really just me derailing.
Oh, no, that's me and my master. When we teach newbie classes, sometimes we will go off. Like, people, they know our relationship as we're very funny together, and we are just constantly, like, picking at each other the entire time, and it's so much fun.
Nice. What do you want to ask us?
I don't know.
How about that one?
Oh, yeah. So what is leather when we're talking about that in a kink BDSM sense?
Oh, wow. So I
know.
I'm not going to act like I know a whole lot about leather or the leather community, because I don't really. We've just started to get interested in Northwest Leather Celebration. So we've been to that twice. We've taught last year. We were lucky enough to get to teach there. But I'm not super familiar with, like, the history. I can't pretend. I mean, Master knows a little bit, right? Yeah, he knows a little bit about it. But I'm just like, I don't know that much.
That's fair. Neither do I.
All right, Summer.
Yes.
There's so much stuff out there.
Oh my
people,
God, yes.
Right.
All the things.
What resources do you recommend people start with that are curious? Like, because you're helping with the beginners, the newbies.
Yeah.
Where do you recommend they start off?
Well, again, they need to come to newbies first. So when they come to newbies, I would recommend doing the 6 classes. There is an opportunity to go to other events after you come to the first class, because we have our other groups there that will vet you, and you can definitely start exploring other places. But as far as to get knowledge, come to all 6 classes. Come to the dungeon field trip with other people that are just like you, like new, just like you. Get in with those people and just go through that, and then branch out. Like, see what we have to offer, and then move on and see other things. That doesn't mean that you can't go to the rope group that we have in town, that you can't go to any of these other groups that we have. Just stick with us for your education, and then go out and see what else everybody else has to offer.
How soon do you recommend they sign up for, like, FetLife?
Today,
now?
Right now.
Yesterday.
Yeah, yesterday.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, our community is very large and very welcoming, and everybody is really awesome. So the quicker you can get there, the better.
Okay.
Are there other, like, online resources that people can look at to kind of help them learn about the community outside of FetLife?
There are. We do have links to different things. There's different books out there. We have, I forgot, there's one that we had that's the submissive journey. It's a female submissive journey, and it's not play-based. So a lot of the things that we do have in our community are play-based. Luckily, our classes aren't play-based. We do have a section on toys where we get to show everybody what kind of toys we have, but a lot of it is just relationship-based and just navigating your way through negotiating with a partner and making sure that you're on equal footing, because yes, a person may identify as an S-type or, you know, a D-type, but when you're coming together for the first time and you're negotiating, you're here together at the same time until you give that power away.
And can we talk a little bit about negotiation? I know that's like a side step from kind of what we're talking about, but, like, what does that mean when we're talking about a kink relationship, and why is that so important when you first start?
Yeah, absolutely. So negotiating a kink relationship, it depends on the type of relationship that you want is where your negotiation will go. If you're play only, that's a certain type of negotiation. You know, where can I hit you? With what can I hit you? You know, can we have sex when I hit you? Whatever. And then there's the relationship side of it, which is, are we going to do vanilla things together? Am I going to meet your parents? What is our frequency that we're going to see each other? That kind of stuff. So what you're doing in BDSM and with your relationships, that's where the negotiation will go.
Okay.
Where are we going next?
I don't know.
You don't know?
Where do you want to go? let's talk it out.
So we're starting the negotiation process
Yeah.
now. Oh, dear.
Yeah. It's never too early to start negotiation.
It's never too early.
Never too early.
All right, so here's something. I've been messing up these two terms quite often, and I think you might be able to help me out understand.
Oh, we'll see.
Okay. Okay. Monkey? No.
Yeah.
No. Kink and BDSM.
Okay, so BDSM is all of it together.
Yeah.
Is it? Yeah, all of it together. That's how I would explain that. And kink is kind of like the little pieces of BDSM that you're into. Like somebody's kink could be feet. Like that's their kink. That's what gets them off. Somebody else's kink could be knives. But that's all a part of BDSM.
Gotcha.
So that would all include of that because it's, bondage, discipline, sadomasochism. It's all of that stuff. So that's what, that's to me.
Don't tell Summer, but she just killed my next question. So if you're ready to move on to the next thing, we can make that happen.
Yeah. So since you've answered Monkey's question so clearly, how do I learn to become a top? If I want to be a top, like what would I do?
Well, you would research the hell out of it. You would research the hell out of what you want to do. Then you would basically find somebody to negotiate with and talk to them and say, hey, you seem like a submissive person. You could even go to some like people who are that do submission and play openly with other people. Like there are people that are like, I'm submissive in play, and then if you want to play, let me know. And then a top will go to them and say, I want to play with you. How do we make that happen so that I can experiment? And then a lot of the times what a new top or a new bottom would do is they will go to somebody that they trust that's already established. They will like go to my master and say, can you teach me how to use these toys? Like there's something that we have in the community that are called tasting parties. So what it is you get a taste of what it's like to be whatever role you want. You can go and do whips, you can take whips, you can do canes or you can take them. So that's what I would recommend. If you want to be a top, then go find a top who you admire or look up to or who you would look at as your mentor and go ask them for advice. And then find a bottom that you could click with and that would be willing to let you experiment on them in a safe, negotiated, consensual way.
So what, I'm assuming the answer to this is go to Munches.
Yes.
But what
probably.
do you, if you, like, for example, I moved across the country about a year ago. Like, what do you do to not insert yourself in the
And
word,
look where
to
she
become
ended
a part to become a part of like a new community? Like, is the best thing just to go to Munches and to meet new people and get yourself out there?
Yep, that's absolutely. Participate in online discussions that we have. Try to go to whatever you can get your hands on and whatever you have time for. That would be the best option, is go to a munch first.
Okay.
Don't go to a dungeon. Like, I've heard of so many people that scares the living crap out of them and they're like, yeah, I'm out. Like, I'm not. Because we have some really heavy players. And if you see some of our heavy players and you're new, I'm sorry.
Well, and what are some of the things I shouldn't do? Like, if I'm trying to get into that realm, to not, like, make myself look bad accidentally or other things.
We would say don't talk bad about the community when you're not in it. Don't talk bad about people. Don't out people. Like, if you know anybody in that community, don't tell other people. Just maintain your privacy. That's a big one for us. We've had people stand up in Munches and give their full first and last name.
That is,
and we've, like, Master and I have froze and been like, what do we do? But he's like, it's fine. Maybe nobody noticed. It's fine. Just
we're gonna pretend it didn't happen.
Yeah, let's just not
subtly afterward. Hey.
Yeah, and
hey.
then he'll go up to them or I'll go up to them and say, we've already talked about this in our presentation, but just to reiterate, don't say your last name and stuff unless you don't care. There are people who don't care.
Yeah.
If you don't care, that's on you. But I care about my last name and what I do. So
awesome.
I think we really got fairly
into that
broadside on that.
Yeah.
Yeah, man.
Are you gonna be okay over there?
Man. What?
What are you doing?
I'm fine. I'm just going to drink my drink. And I think we're going to go ahead and take a break. We're going to go have some messages from our sponsors. And when we come back, we're going to meet your master.
Yay! Yeah. I live with him all the time.
We'll be right back after this. Hi, guys. This is Sean Monkey McAnee. Monkey for short. You know what? If you're in town here in Sacramento, or if you're anywhere, you need to check out Midtown Moxies. They are a Sacramento burlesque troupe that is blowing my doors off. They are amazing. Generally, they have 2 shows a month. One called the Midtown Moxies and one called Moxie Crush. You need to go to midtownmoxies.com or find them on Facebook. They are amazing. They're beautiful. They're funny as hell. Trust me, I wouldn't be advertising with them if I didn't believe in them. They are freaking fantastic. enough said. Go to midtownmoxies.com. Don't ask me. Yeah, ask her. Yeah. Welcome back to Brown Chicken, Brown Cow. I am Sean Monkey McAney. Welcome to one of our first months of the show dealing with BDSM and kink and all that thing, because we know that it's going to take more than just 1 month. So we're going to come back repeatedly on this subject because there's so much stuff to talk about, I think.
God, yes.
Right?
Oh, yeah.
So we're just kind of hitting the high notes right now, but guess what? We have some really great guests. I want to introduce John.
When did they get here?
I know, John. It's all right. It's all right. You just watch the door. It's okay. John, how you doing?
Pretty good, pretty good.
So tell us a little bit about yourself. I mean, when did you get started in kink? What was it that attracted you to it and stuff like that?
I got into kink with my ex-wife probably about 10 years ago. But since we didn't go into the community or meet any other people in kink, we just kind of tried to make it work as best as we could, and then it didn't work very well. And then about 3 years ago, I got into the Sacramento community, almost 4 years ago, I think. And then from there, learned a lot, met a lot of different types of people in BDSM, because there, like you said, there's so many different ways you can do kink, or it's very individualistic. So, but I learned a lot that way, and decided to start up the Zach Newman Munch, which you guys have been talking about.
Yeah, and so Summersfield is amazing. You're doing great work. Thank you for that.
Thanks.
One of my partners likes to call me Vanilla with Sprinkles.
Well, that means you're a little bit kinky,
means
but
you're-
not a whole. Really? Did you just say me too?
No, I mean, it means he can be fully corrupted if you just give it
Oh
some
yeah,
time.
just come to the dark side. We have cookies.
Oh, we have donuts. I might just stay in this umbrella here, so it's fine. I like to explore all the oh, jeez. Are you seeing what she Stop. Watch,
Like
there goes the
6?
meter.
Yeah.
Yeah, there goes the meter. Number 5, 6. I don't know what we're at. Anyway, so we learned a little bit about the, kind of a primer to BDSM with Summer, and you two have what's called a master-slave relationship. Can you tell us a little bit about what that means to you and what it means across the spectrum?
That you can boss
So,
me around.
well, yeah, it's funny. Like, that's definitely what people think right away. Ooh, I want to get myself a slave or a sub so I can make them do things for me. And that's it. They think it ends there. And actually, it's more work. I probably put more work in than I get out of it. She doesn't think so.
Oh, dear.
Hell no.
It's true. It's true. This is a handful right there. So it's actually, it's a little more than a handful, really. But there's a lot of work behind it, because a master-slave relationship is a lot about me being more the master. Usually is the structure around the relationship, sets up the rules, the boundaries, things like that. Usually because the S-type wants that kind of structure, and really lets them relax and not be so worried about day-to-day life is really what MS is about, if you just bare bones it. But behind that also means that I'm not just responsible for myself, I'm responsible for her whole life as well. So that's where there's a lot of work with. It's easier to know what I want and my goals and how do I achieve those things, because I know myself for 42 years, right? But her, I don't know anything about her really, if you think about it, from the perspective of being in my own head all the time.
Right.
So I have to talk with her a lot, tease out those goals, and build structure around it and really help her achieve those things. So there's a lot of responsibility.
And you just mentioned something here that's very important, the communication.
Oh, yeah.
God, we talk too much sometimes.
Too much.
Too much.
Because you have to understand how you're both going to make this happen, how it's going to work, right? And I think that's something that may be missed by some people out there. Oh, you get to tell her everything. No, you're trying to help her achieve what she's trying to do.
Yeah.
And push and guide as well.
Yeah, it's kind of like I'm the captain and she's the boat. So if I do something wrong, I'm going to sink the boat. And if she springs a leak, the boat's going to sink. We're both going down. Like you're both in it. So it's very important to get that communication going and make sure that I don't want to scare people. It's a long process to get to master slave. It just doesn't just start as master slave. So but that communication builds a lot over time, and negotiation, which I know you guys kind of covered. You negotiate repeatedly over time.
Right.
So yeah, there's tons of communication, but that's really what every relationship should be.
It should be. Every relationship should be.
Yeah.
And it also, something some people might not understand or you can expand on this, what you're getting out of a 24/7 master-slave relationship.
I do his dishes. I think that's what he's getting at.
Well, you were gonna
and
do
his
those.
laundry. No.
Because it takes
It's
time to build
way
up to
more.
that too, at least
Yes.
on some level, right?
It's way more than that, yeah.
Yeah. Do you want to say
No,
stuff?
no, you can.
You know, I'll just keep talking.
No, it's fine. I don't know what he get. Yeah, he's a talker. He talks.
That's why.
What?
Anyway,
We have this thing we do at newbies where
I'll tap him.
She's like, and then she doesn't work, so she kind of starts really, you know,
I'll like
digging in.
dig in. I'm like, okay, we need to move
need to
on.
move
Or I'll
on.
just kind of go in there and be like, okay, anyway.
Yeah.
So this is,
So.
you know, but I mean, what I feel like he gets out of it is he gets a sounding board. I mean, if you think about it, if anybody thinks about it, they can do their own dishes. They can do their own planning. They can cook their own meals. They can take care of whatever they need to around their own house. He can do that. I do that for him so that he doesn't have to, because it frees his time up to do other things that he may want to do, like to focus on our budget or focus on our goals or to relax after work or whatever. But he basically gets me as a sounding board. I'm the person that he goes to for whatever, and I will give him sometimes bluntly my most honest opinion about whatever's going on. But at the end of the day, it's his decision to make on whatever we do. But that's the biggest thing I think I offer you, right? Is I'm your...
And it's different for every master-slave couple. She's not. Well, they're definitely. Well, there's a lot of different types of slaves, but mostly there's two types. There's the service-oriented type, which again you guys touched on, where they really do just want to relatively remain quiet and serve, like clean or get you things, and they really don't want to even talk about decision making. Whereas she's more of what some people call a power slave. She's very independent and strong-willed, and can do things on her own. And I really don't get a lot of service out of her in a sense like that. But yeah, I get the sounding board, and really it's the two minds are better than one type of situation. And so yeah, that's really what I get out of this master-slave relationship. But it's going to be different for everyone.
So you mentioned something. I'm still trying to define things. Power exchange.
Oh,
Is
yeah, he
that
loves this.
still
man.
within the same realm?
Yes,
Okay.
it's the same exact. Well, it's not the exact, but power exchange is really, as someone was mentioning earlier, top bottom is bedroom only, and then once you get out of the bedroom, you're in power exchange more or less. After that, that means that we're going to exchange. You're going to give me power, and I give you something else. Usually, it's structure or help with whatever you gave me, right? And consistency and things like that. So, and it is an exchange. A lot of people have abusive relationships in the sense where she's giving and giving, like doing dishes or doing whatever, and I say I'm going to do all these things for her, and I never really get around to doing them. So really, there's no exchange. It's really one-sided. So yes, but we always tell people, no, it's fairly even exchange where if you give something, you need to get something back.
Right.
And so really, the dom sub, dominant and submissive would be a fairly small exchange, and then it builds up over time if you want it to, into master slave, or into total power exchange where I have control over everything in her whole life if I want to.
Right.
So
Let me move on to another slightly different subject. I've heard in master slave or power exchange or these type of roles, sometimes there's a contract.
Yes,
between...
we have one.
Okay, tell me,
should have
if
brought
you're willing
it.
to share, tell me a little bit about this.
Absolutely. So our contract is 52 million pages long. No, it was fairly long when we first started because
was 22 pages.
Yeah, it's 22 pages, and
Okay.
it outlined basically the things that he had control over. But now it's turned into things that he does not have control over, which is not anything really at all, because they call it total power exchange TPE.
Okay.
So when we're TPE that, but yes, we have a contract and it outlines how we're going to communicate, what our roles and responsibilities are, what our core needs are, the things basically we're going to bring to the relationship. It has people we have like an out clause
it's like a dirty
kind of.
no. What? No, that's two different sections. You're
Oh
talking
yeah,
about the
no,
dirty
I'm saying-
laundry section.
Yeah, so we have a dirty laundry section basically. It's-
Only we can only talk to certain people about our problems because in the community that gets around.
Yeah.
And
So
then,
people we trust.
And then, like at the end, we have a way to, if we
Exit
have,
strategy.
an exit strategy on if we're going to get out of our contract, how we would get out of that. And
Honestly, it sounds like this is the type of contract almost all relationships should have at some
You would
point.
think.
yeah, you
Right.
would think,
But-
I would think of that as.
And really, the whole contract really piece is it. I think it protects submissives more than it
Yeah.
protects the S types more because a lot, not all, some dominants really use that dominant position to just kind of take. And they say they're going to do all these things. Oh, I'm going to do all these things for you. And they never really do it. The contract is great because it specifically outlines what this S-type is supposed to get back.
Okay.
You're supposed to do this, this, and this, and you signed it and said you would do it. So it's very much, hey, you're not doing what you said you're going to do, and so hey, that means I get to get out. Or, it really allows, I think, either party to bring that to the table to say, we negotiated X and it's not happening, so, why? Maybe it's, oh, I'm sorry, I've just been really busy, it's my fault, I'll try to fix it. Oh, great, that's good. Or it could be that over time you're noticing, okay, maybe I'm just getting abused and I need to get out of this. So I think it's a great, it's like a yardstick kind of, that you can keep measuring again and again. Is this measuring up to what I wanted?
Vanilla relationships, I feel like, should have that. I feel like
That'd
you
be
come
nice.
into a vanilla relationship and you want communication and stuff, but some people, because they feel too scared to talk.
Well, there's just no structure. No, there's no
Yeah.
structure. It's whatever happens, is really-
Exactly. Well, in vanilla relationships, we'll just say it that way. We have a model in our head.
Right.
We've seen it on media. We've seen it through our parents, which if they're not kinky or they are not progressive, they have certain aspects that we all kind of like just lean into until sometimes some things change, or you're educated, or you're open or awoken to another way of life. And
Right.
so this is another way for people to think about, like I said, creating that contract, that dialogue between everybody, not just within these type of master-slave or power exchange relationships.
But real quick before we move on, if that's okay, it's also you create those what we think it should be is very implicit. It's something that people don't talk about, and that's where you get the definitions crossed, where someone might think, oh, the marriage should look this way, and everybody just says, oh, marriage, oh, like we all know what that means to everybody. It's different for everyone. So with it not being talked about, you're kind of signing up for, hey, I hope it works, because your definition could be totally different.
Yeah.
And the contract is explicit, it's very explicit, and you have to be specific in what you want, and that's during that negotiation period where you think, oh, I thought it was this, and you thought it was that. I'm really glad that we talked about that, because that would have been a really bad issue later.
So let's move on to a little bit something a little bit maybe personal. How do you describe your relationship?
Not
She
like
just
that.
laughs.
Okay, next question.
How would I describe our relationship?
And I'm sure it's different for whoever you're talking to, right?
Yeah, it absolutely is. I don't know. I love our relationship. We have the most fun, and I get the most out of it, more than I would have ever gotten, I think, out of a vanilla relationship. I've learned what it is to truly communicate with another person on a level where you're just like, can you not always talk to me about all the things all the time? And I actually like oversharing as opposed to undersharing, I guess. Like, I like knowing what's going on in his head, even if I don't want to hear it at the time, or I don't know. I think our relationship is awesome. How would you describe our relationship? It's crazy sometimes.
It's very stable. Well, here's the thing. It's a double-edged sword. It's very stable, but smaller instabilities throw you off. The smaller changes, where when you're in a relationship that you're dealing with a lot of change all the time that you're not prepared for, you get a little bit used to it, a little desensitized to that. And then when, like, I had a motorcycle accident 2 months ago. So the small things that we did every day for each other, we couldn't do. And that totally destabilized us, which normally it might not. They would just ebb and flow. It's not a big deal. But when you get into a highly structured relationship like that, it's actually makes it more difficult sometimes.
And he's super structured. So we have protocols. So there's things that I have to do every day to make our life run smoothly. And when he got into his wreck, we couldn't do those anymore.
Well, it's small stuff, like I open all doors for her, and I couldn't after that. And she just, because she was opening the doors now, it freaked her out. Like, it really destabilized her, and it was really difficult.
So yeah, so it sounds like you really have a lot of dynamic to your relationship, but there's other things. For example, do you live together?
Yes.
Okay. Do you have kids?
Not together.
Not together.
I have 2 children. He has 2 children, but they're from our past relationships.
Okay. But do they live with you?
Part-time,
Part-time?
50-50 custody on both ends. So during
other week.
every other week, but luckily our weeks line up. So this week we have our kids, and next week we will be kid-free.
Yeah.
We turn back into
Normal
kid-free,
people.
normal people.
Because I have a lot of experience in the polyamory world, and one of the questions that always comes up, and especially with people who don't know about the community, is, what about kids? Well, my answer has always been, well, the kids, just like in a monogamous relationship, they don't get to know about mom and dad's explorations in the bedroom. They're still kids. They have to, there's that boundary, there's that door. So do they know about your relationship, or is there...
I want to answer this one if that's okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
They know something about our relationship because my older daughter is very headstrong, and
Observant. She's very observant.
sometimes he'll say to me, "Hey, go do this," and I'm like, I'll maybe fight it or something. He's like, it doesn't matter what you say, get up and go do it because I told you to. She will trigger like yeah, you've done that. She'll trigger out and be like, don't tell my mom what to do. And then we'd have to explain to her that's the way we kind of like our relationship. And I'm fine with that. And she has to learn that. And we've tried to explain it a little bit to the kids on why when he tells me to do something, even if I fight or argue, I get up and do it. Or why there are times when he'll say, okay, are you done now? Like, you can be done now, and stop, because I'm pretty headstrong too. So there's times that he has to keep me back in line, and but we've kind of explained it a little bit.
Okay.
Yeah.
Tiny bit.
Yeah, we don't really hide it. We feel like...
I don't call him master in front of the kids,
right.
though.
I mean...
I call him M.
Yeah,
So,
I mean, because I think it's good for kids to see different types of relationships. We're not shoving it down their throat or anything. And then when they're old enough, they can ask. I have a 19-year-old and a 14-year-old, so my 19-year-old pretty much knows, even though he doesn't really want to. But I said, it's one of those things where the point is to have whatever relationship you want to have. So, and people shouldn't judge you for that.
Absolutely.
So that's what we kind of teach them as they get older.
And that's just the perfect way to when they're ready, they can be introduced to it.
Yes.
When it's still teaching respect in relationships and whatever they want to get out of a relationship, and find that person that matches their idea. So let's talk a little bit more about the differences between or different minutia, I guess, details about slaves. So are all slaves the same?
no, God,
Yes,
no.
I mean,
just like all
I can't just switch you out with someone else.
I will
That's a
break
bum deal.
I will
I
break
didn't know
your
that.
kneecaps.
That is the slave talking. Okay, so different ideas, different. I'm sure there's as many different ways of doing it as there are people for the most part.
Well, when I first got into BDSM, I was a switch. I'm a very dominant type of person. I grew up that way. My parents neglected me, all these crazy stories, that you hear about people, but I had to take care of myself. When I met him, I knew that I wanted to be his slave, not anybody's slave. I'm not an in general slave to anyone or do anything. There are some slaves who will be put in situations and they could literally serve anybody. That's just who they are and how they operate, and they love service and they love to do that kind of thing. That's not me. But I felt like he is strong and capable and responsible enough to have my slavery. So I submitted to him and I gave it to him.
I duped her, basically.
So is there a learning process for you to become a slave, obviously? Or what is it mentally that you're able to accept or move through, or what is the process?
My mental acrobatics?
Mental acrobatics.
No. It's very hard for somebody that has very strong-willed like I am to surrender to somebody else's wants and needs before my own. So sometimes it's really hard for me to go, I don't care if that's what you want. That's not what I want. And I have to learn that that's not what I have, that's not what I can say. Luckily, I have a master who's given me a place to say what I want in a respectful manner and learn and grow from that process and learn kind of how to submit more and go deeper, and I don't know.
Well, from what I've heard from most slaves anyway, which is different than submissives, there's a lot of differences, is it's kind of like being in love. You don't really know what's happening. You don't. When did that happen? Was it last week? Is it just now? It's definitely more of a feeling of I want to serve this person, and that makes it a lot easier to serve them. It's really only a problem or an issue when you get into the heavier stuff. Like she doesn't have any bank accounts anymore. She gave all that
completely.
She gave all that to me, and that was very difficult for her, as it would be anybody.
And my film company.
But that's different than kneel while we're having fun or something. Okay, I can do that. No, that's no problem. But what I think she was mentioning is it's only to me. She felt that to me, like you'd feel chemistry with someone. You don't feel chemistry with everyone when you go on a date.
Absolutely not.
If you don't, you just move on. And if you do, hey, let's do this. Whereas submissives, from what I've heard again, it's just not that way. It's easier to they have more dominance they could submit to, where slaves are like, so I've heard some slaves say, oh, if we ever break up, I'm not going to ever be a slave again. It's because they only can feel that with that one person.
Right.
I kind of feel that way. I feel like if we were to break our contract and break up and not be together anymore, I don't think I could put myself in that position again. Like maybe I could once the hurt or whatever was over, maybe I could, but I've only ever felt that with him. I've never felt like I want to mop this man's floors or whatever. Like I've never felt that with somebody else. So I think it's a rare feeling.
Nice.
Thing.
Some of the things that you mentioned, you're strong-willed. You had to come to a level of letting go of certain aspects of your life.
Yes.
When you first got started, was there something that you would like to be able to turn the clock back and be able to know, not just that it would be okay, but something that maybe you would have told yourself, how to move through this process differently?
Wow, I've never thought about that. Oh, would you like some water? Yeah, I've never thought about that. I think what I would tell myself is I have abandonment issues really badly. So I think I would tell myself that he's not going anywhere. Like, that's my biggest fear, is like he's going to stroll off, because
we do poly as well.
We're just now learning poly. Like, I'm learning poly. He's done poly before. I have not. So what I would tell myself is just relax. Like, just relax. Take your relationship day by day. You don't need to rush. And he's not going anywhere. He promised you he wouldn't, and he keeps his promises, and he's not going anywhere.
Plus, I can't move very fast now. That I had to order
I used to take his crutches, so he couldn't leave me.
Just take the crutches away from him. So you're also exploring poly. I see layers here. How does exploring poly meld with the master-slave dynamic?
Okay, so right now I feel like poly is very inconsistent to me. Like in a relationship where my relationship is completely consistent, and I have protocols, and I have standing orders, and I have a set way of doing things, poly comes in and blows it out of the water. There's no consistency. People do kind of whatever they want. Like, I mean, we have rules.
We have rules.
I just said that.
But, yeah.
We have rules, but like, for me, I have a very set, like, we're home at a certain time. We do dinner at a certain time. We do things but when dates are happening, there is no time. And then I'm at home like, oh my God, like my little slave mind is exploding because I don't know what's going on. But we're taking it day by day, and he lets me express myself when I feel like something's complete BS or what I don't understand.
And I try not to laugh. No, I'm just kidding.
No, he tries not to laugh. Yeah, so basically the way that we've approached poly is, a lot of people have had this question: how do I, as a TPE slave, am able to have a poly relationship?
Right.
Because now that's taking his control away and not giving it to another person per se, but like, I have control over another part of my life. I have control over my poly life, because he doesn't tell me who I can date.
Okay.
He can come in and say if he feels like that person is abusive or something that.
And that's
it's
an
dramatic.
expected poly aspect anyway. Yeah.
Absolutely. So we've had to explain to people about our poly is he has given me the permission to have control over that part. He can still come in there if he wants to and say, you're done. Like, your whatever, for whatever reason.
As a last ditch.
He would never do he
I keep
never,
I want to reiterate that.
Yeah, he never ever uses his mastery
Powers
for
for evil.
I'm just gonna say.
It's almost like a level of veto that you're holding
We
back.
try to say no vetoes
Yeah.
because I've had really bad issues with, people have abused it in the past. For me,
Yeah.
she's never had to deal with that because I put that in right away for us. But it's funny because I've had she has had really so many people say, I would totally date you if it wasn't for who your master is. And I'm like, we're like, date her.
That's why I
Like,
can't be. That's why poly is really hard for me.
I know it's because I walk around flexing all the time, but it's like, it's not a big deal. I'm not that intimidating.
all the machismo.
I'm not that intimidating. You want some of this? I know.
Well, let's move on to a little bit about mastering, okay?
God.
I know, right? This is, John, I think this is where you really, here we
Yeah,
go.
this is-
Step forward, this is where you get to step up. How do you know, or for the viewers, you're a master, or maybe even want to be? What level of knowledge do you
You
have?
went on this journey.
Yeah, I think it.
I
So
helped you.
like Summer said a lot earlier, our community is mostly players. There are not a lot of relationship types, which means there aren't a lot of doms or masters to learn from, which is really, that's sad, kind of.
And we don't mean players like cheaters or anything.
No.
like
We mean people who are
physical.
mostly top bottom is
Yeah.
most of our community is top bottom. So there's really no one to really ask those questions to. But really, it's more of a feeling that I never felt comfortable listing as a dominant. I would list as a dominant for a year or something.
About a year, yeah.
And it just didn't fit because a dominant wants some control, and I wanted it all. I want all of it because I just want to structure my whole life. I don't deal well with change. I feel like I don't want to speak for all masters, but I definitely have some Asperger's going on a little bit. I mean, that's just kind of, I think that fits really well together. Oh, Asperger's, be a master. You'll see. It's really about, I want to master my life inside and outside. I have a quote, or not a quote, it's on my FetLife profile that says, I strive to master myself and my environment, where it's consensual. And that's really about having all that structure in the day-to-day things and things like that. So I can really focus on cutting edge things in my life, like goals, and how am I going to achieve these big things. If I don't have my everyday life figured out, I'm going to spend a lot of time on this everyday thing. And I try not to do that.
And if our relationship is chaos, and
Then
he
we're gonna
doesn't
spend all
have
our time
control, trying to
fix
kind of
all that
managing the
stuff all the
chaos.
time.
But when I first met him, he was a dominant. Go ahead. He came into the community as a submissive,
Yeah.
as a sub, and then quickly changed out of that.
Yeah,
I
it
knew
didn't
him as a
last.
dominant, and we kind of fell into our MS fairly quickly. Like I was giving him a lot of control, which is probably not.
Well, like I said before,
it was so natural.
when you feel it,
Yeah, it was,
then that's when you're like, oh,
yeah, this is what it's supposed to
Okay.
feel like. And I remember he was having conversations with people that he really trusted as well as with me. And he's like, I feel like I'm a master, is what he said. And I said, well, you are. Like, you're doing that. That's what you are. And a lot of his friends were like, yes, like, do it. Don't be scared of that. Because a master can mean different things. Like a leather master is somebody that's entirely different than how he's a master.
yeah. A leather master is an earned title in a sense in the leather community. And I don't see myself as a leather master. I'm just a master. That's the way I am every day. So it's like a submissive. You don't have to earn the title of submissive before you say I'm a submissive.
Or I'm a slave.
Right.
Yeah.
So
But that's basically what happened. That's how he transitioned.
I'm going to ask you the same question I asked you. What would you have done differently or thought about or told yourself as you were moving into becoming a master?
that's a really good question. Man, it's hard to say because the path is a very long path. So probably what I would do different is pick someone totally different. No, I'm just kidding. No, that's a totally
I will
wrong
cut
answer.
you.
I'm sitting way too close to the answer that way.
The cutlery's on the other side of
Yeah,
the room.
whoa.
It's fine.
I think I would have definitely been more aware that there's a lot of work that, and I've never done working on myself, but there's a lot more work that I didn't know there would be so much work for myself because I have to have way more patience and I have to control myself at a much higher level than I still don't feel like I'm there. But I didn't know all that when I started. And I didn't know that's really where the focus is. I really feel like most of the work, and this is why I say it's a lot more work, is really on myself. It's not so much on her. It is some on her, but if I can't control myself and I can't do all these structure and do all these things, I can't have a slave. So there's just a lot of self-work. And I guess I have a weird facial expression because I don't feel like I'm there yet. But,
Okay.
but yeah.
So we did get a question from the studio audience here today. Yeah, you. No, I'll do it. You're not on mic. It's okay. What happens if there's a situation where a complete disagreement, doesn't want to make this thing happen, doesn't want to do it? Where do you go?
Okay, so if I disagree with something that happens, what happens is we have a conversation. Stop! We have a conversation about it. We bring it to light to each other. We sit down at a time when we can both have a long... Stop! Yes, we do. So we say, hey, I really need to talk to you. It's going to probably take a little while to bring this out. And then we have a conversation about it. And we do pros and cons of why I should and why I shouldn't. Or why he should and why he shouldn't. What do you want to say?
Are you telling them what we're supposed to do, or we actually
do that sometimes. Most of the time I blow up.
If it's a big decision, yeah.
I blow up. Like with Polly again, I'm learning that. So things will happen. He will do and say something. I'm like, that's effing stupid. I was like, I don't see why you're doing that. That seems like the dumbest decision. Like, I'm so super blunt about it. And it's probably, I word things wrong. Like, really wrong?
Is that a question? Yeah, you do.
I word things wrong, but that's what we...
You're working on it.
Yeah, I'm definitely working on it. But
Yeah,
we have a conversation. We do. Regardless of the jokes that he's making and stuff, we do have conversations about it. And again, that's because we communicate too much. Like, we will talk about it till the horse is dead for 3 days, and we're still beating that damn horse.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what we really do is we fight. Like everybody, we fight. You know, it's not a fist fight, but...
it could be.
And so but it's because we're over communicating, and sometimes we don't have enough time to stop and wait. And this is where I'm saying I need more patience and really self-control. But yeah, we just communicate right on the fly about stuff. And we don't have a lot of standing rules of what she can and can't do. She can't go to a certain bar. She can go to this bar, but not that bar, and all that kind of stuff. We don't really do that. So there's no punishment that way or anything. But basically, it all boils down to I get the final decision. I make the final decision. It doesn't matter what she wants at all, really, in a sense. It does, because really what I try to do is figure out what I want and what she wants, and I look at her perspective and my perspective, and I mold them into what do I think is the best for both of us. And sometimes she doesn't like that decision. Like, Polly was not her idea, and we took I told her I would give her a year into our relationship before we started Polly. I already told her I'm polyamorous. I want that, and I'm gonna have that. So we did discuss that, and she really didn't. Well, she did. You were okay with it.
Well, I don't believe in monogamy, but I've also never been in love before. Like, he was the first person I've ever been in love with. I'm 32 years old. We've been together for 2.5 years, and he's the first person I ever loved. And now I have to let the first person that I've ever loved and only have had a small 2.5 years is a small amount of time for somebody to be together. And now I have to give that my time to somebody else. That's a that was a big problem for me. And while I didn't believe in monogamy, and I still don't believe in monogamy, I just, like, it's very hard for me, because a lot of people that I know that are poly, they either started as poly, they didn't give their relationship a year. They either went right ahead as poly, or they were together 10 or 15 years, and then they did poly. You know, they didn't go together for a year or 2 years and then be like, okay, we're poly now. I still feel like we're brand new, and we're still coming into our own relationship. Now we're throwing another person or other people into that dynamic. I feel like it creates a small amount of chaos, which I hate, but we're getting there.
So to answer the question a little bit better, I learned a long time ago that the only rules I make, the only standing orders I do are all practical. So there's a lot of stuff out there that's not, and that just creates friction. So the least amount of rules possible to get the job done is the best, because that creates the least amount of friction and then the most happiness, in my opinion. So that's really the way we do it.
You two have really shown me a lot of aspects. I know there's many different ways, many different people out there doing master-slave differently. You know, we just have to keep that in mind. But the information and enlightenment you've given me today has been fantastic.
Thanks.
Can you tell me about any events coming up or websites or where people can find you?
Definitely on fetlife.com.
Okay.
I'm MacGyver of Kink on there. Yeah.
Oh boy.
You can find me there, and she's girl_on_fire, and anybody can shoot us any questions they want. We field questions all the time. We also run Sacramento Newbies, come out to that. That's once a month.
We have our own house, so we have our house. It's House Onyx, and we have MS discussions there as well. We're having one coming
Power
up,
exchange
actually.
discussions.
Yeah, we're having one on this Friday. I don't know.
Yeah, they're about every 3 months or so.
Yeah, you don't have to be an MS couple to come. You don't even have to be a master or slave to come. You could just be interested in the dynamic, and we allow you to come over and talk to other well-seasoned MS individuals who definitely have different relationships than ours.
Yeah.
Right.
And we also teach at Northwest Leather Celebration.
Yep,
I always get the
Sacramento.
C. NWLC.
Yeah,
NWLC.
Sacramento Kink Con, we teach there as well. And we also run a mixer out in Davis, California. We run a mixer there. It's the third.
So a mixers just get together for drinks and hang out. There's
Of
no
course.
structure really or anything.
Yeah,
to
we
it.
just hang out for drinks. So it's
Okay.
the third Friday of the month out in Davis, third, fourth.
It's one of the Fridays.
It's the very last Friday of the month.
No,
normally.
it's the 4th.
There's 5 weeks in a month?
There can be. Can be 5
No.
Fridays.
No.
Yeah.
This is why I'm the master, by the way.
I just like to mess with him.
Okay, well, thank you guys. You guys are actually a delight to talk to. It's been amazing. We're going to go to sponsors real quick, and when we come back,
Hello, this is David Lorettamola with the BCBC podcast. Now, I know you're sitting there thinking, what could David possibly tell me about condoms that I don't already know? Here's a fact. Do you get a condom that delivers to you monthly? I don't think you do. But if you order Lucky Blow condoms, they're great. They'll get you through whatever you need to do. And when you're done, no worries. There's no babies coming out of nothing. That's a fact. You can quote me on that. David Lorettamola says, buy Lucky Bloke condoms. You'll never regret it.
what? Harder? I'm just trying to spank my monkey.
Ein is very concerned about this action, sir.
Oh, hi, Ein. How you doing? So we have the stage manager on the set now. Welcome back. This is Brown Chicken, Brown Cow. I am Sean Monkey McEnany. This is Miss Laura. And guess what? A couple weeks ago, we had
Auntie Vice.
Auntie Vice with us. She did a fantastic podcast. I don't know when it aired, but I know it's on there. And we had a lot of fun with you on that show. So we got to learn a lot about you. But one of the wonderful things, at least I think so, as an entertainer and comedian as well, is you're a comic.
I am. I've been doing it for a couple years now.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And you're going to do some for us today. That's why we brought you back.
Yep, I'm looking forward to it.
Awesome. Hey, how about you?
I am super excited, and Ein is waiting with anticipation.
Well, and it's great to have a crowd that'll finally get the kink jokes.
There you go.
Yay!
Yay! All right, so let's get on with the comedy.
Sounds great.
Hi, I'm Auntie Vice, and it's a privilege to be here on Brown Chicken, Brown Cow. Of course, I'm an educated white woman, so that's something I'm real familiar with. Nobody likes that joke. I love that joke. But it makes people of color just resentful that I have it, and white people never acknowledge the joke exists. So I come by politics honestly. I did have a real job. I was a professor in political psychology, and then I ran a state agency, and I quit all of that to get into porn and tell dick jokes. So you know my parents are real proud. No, it's true. And people will ask, is there a big difference between, porn and politics? And there is. Now when I get screwed, it's consensual. And all the political people hate it, which is why I love doing that joke in Sacramento. Let's see, for people who don't know what else about me, I don't have kids. I never really wanted kids until I got into stand-up, but I like, kids make you relatable. You can get up on stage and go, so, my 5-year-old was doing this. It's a lot harder for me to find a venue where I can walk in and say, so, when you're getting ready to go to your regular beat night at a dungeon and you just can't decide what dish to bring, like that. That's a lot harder audience to find. Hi, thank you, Brown Chicken and Brown Cow, for coming. No, it's one of my favorite things about kink culture, though, is like lots of the smaller play spaces and dungeons, you bring a dish to share. And the only other audience I can find who understands that are 1950s housewives. Right? They get the link between tuna casserole and a good beating. Like, it's just what goes together. Yeah, let's see. I'm divorced. I'm lesbian divorced. Let me put it that way. We're still friends. I kept the Allen wrenches. She kept the dog. We check in on each other on a regular basis. We're much better friends than we ever were partners. My marriage taught me a lot of things. One is whoever your ex dates after you tells you a lot about how bad the breakup was. My ex, when we got together, had never even kissed a man, right? She's true gold star lesbian. And the first 4 people she dated after me were men. So I think I was probably the asshole in that one. Of course, she was a 5 foot tall, 300-pound white woman, and I've dated almost exclusively tall black men since then, so, you know, there were reasons. But, you know, I also learned that no matter how loveless or sexless your marriage becomes, Tinder looks worse. Oh. It is, just most of us don't discover that until after the divorce. And that was one of the hard things. Like, when I got married, I thought, oh my gosh, this is going to be great. I never have to date again, because dating's a nightmare. And statistically, I knew that wasn't true, but I didn't believe the statistics. Like most Americans, they don't apply to me. But, you know, after 12 years, we divorced. And then I had to figure out how I was going to date. And I decided to go back on the online dating scene, but so many things had changed since I got together with my wife more than a decade before. One of the things that had changed is pubic hair trends had become a thing. Like 15 years ago, you were either neatly shaved or you had a little landing strip and that was it, right? But I went back out and now there's Brazilians, full bush Brazilians, vajazzling, all sorts of weird stuff you can do down there. And I had to figure out what to do with my lady bits. And it came down to a discussion with a girlfriend who's in her late 50s at the time, and she's like, yeah, I'm now completely gray down there. And I didn't realize that went gray too. I'm like okay with my hair going gray, but not my hair going gray. Because gray bush is a hobbit. It's not something you fuck. Sadly true. No, when I was first doing that joke, my partner didn't know what vajazzling was. So I had to explain, you know, you get a full Brazilian and then they glue on little gems. And he looks at me and he's like, why would you do that? It's a choking hazard. I win. No, but, so yeah, I had to go back. Lots of things change. Dating when you're older changes. You know, I was worried, I was older, fatter, grayer. I was worried that nobody was going to be interested in me, right? But I finally worked up the guts and went back out on the dating scene, and then I found out the stereotypes are really true. There were 3 types of groups that were really into me. Guys in their 20s looking for a cougar, live-action role players and D&D fans. Trust me, when I was getting hit up by the dungeon masters, I was way more excited than I should be. And black guys. And since I like to be the one that cries during sex, I had to rule out the live-action role players. But I was going to rule out cougaring, right? I've taught in university, 20-somethings don't interest me. There's not a lot in common, but, and there's always a but, there was a guy. And I mean, like a lot of them, 15 years younger than me, amazing body, that doesn't say much. But he rose to the top of the pack because every message he sent me on the dating site, there were no spelling or grammatical errors, and he never sent a dick pic. Yay! So right there, top 2% of men I've ever met. And we went out, and I quickly found out why I can't cougar. Like, young people say things that are just mean. And the fact that I refer to them as young people tells you I shouldn't be cougaring in the first place. But we were out at lunch one day, and he goes, you know, do you remember when you were a kid and just had DSL? No, I had 2 tin cans and a string. What did you have, right? I'd like throw all my old AOL disc at him like ninja stars. Cut that motherfucker. Right? And I need someone who had dial-up, because dial-up is a good thing for sex. For those of you who, everybody's very confused by that, but follow me. When you have dial-up, we used to load down pictures, not video. You'd load down a picture to jerk off to, and it would take like 3 minutes, right? And as you'd load it down, it would be 1 line at a time, right? And then you'd be sitting there going, oh, this is gonna be so good, this is gonna be so good. And then right before it got to the nits, it'd buffer. And you never wanted to come when it was buffering, because you feel like an asshole if you come when it's buffering, right? I'm over 40, I need buffering. I can't date. This DSL is ruined. I mean, it's instant for people nowadays. It's ruined them. So I did. I ended up dating a number of black guys, a number much larger than most people. Like, the average person in the U.S. has sex between 6 and 8 people in a lifetime. For some of us, we just know that's a good fulsome weekend. A little bit of scheduling, you're set. Right? And it's true. Black men tend to like bigger white women. And after talking to a number of partners, I think I figured out why. And it's racism at its core. Because if you're a white girl, you can have 2 black guys before you have a black thing, right? If you're a black guy, you get 1 white girl, and then you've got a white thing, right? And like for me, first black guy I went out with, everybody just assumed I was getting even with my father for something. Second one, I had a thing. But if you only get 1, you're not going to blow your streak, on just anything. It's like being a vegan. You're not going to go 20 years of vegan and then blow it on like a sauteed chicken breast. You're going to go with a meat lover's pizza. And like, I am the meat lover's pizza of women. This body is sponsored by Taco Tuesday. Like, I eat so much gluten and white sugar. Like, I have betrayed the whole white woman clique. Like, there's commitment to pie to have a body like this. Woo! Right. So you did, but you learn other things when you date interracially. You learn which one of your friends still have those racist ideas. And I have friends who will ask, and they say, is it true? Are black men really bigger? And I'm honest every time, and I'm like, yeah, my man has an enormous credit score. Because over 40 and 850 on your Equifax is way sexier than a big dick. These are things that change as you get older. The reasons you date change. In my 20s, I dated for the same reason that everybody dates in their 20s. I had hope. Right? You're going to meet this person, fall in love, swap some DNA, maybe raise some offspring, and live happily ever after. Your 40s, you date for different reasons, right? Now I date to have somebody other than my mother on my emergency contact form and to not get eaten by cats. Like, these are real threats. The 40-year-old, they're like, yeah. No, after my divorce, one of the most disheartening, awful things I had to do was fill out an in case of emergency contact form, and I couldn't put my ex-wife down. But most of my friends won't pay $5 to come to a comedy show, so I wasn't going to give them an end-of-life decision. Right? But I know at this point, if I'm in a major car accident, I'm taken to the hospital, the doctors look, and they say, she's bleeding really badly, who's her contact? Oh, it's her mom, and they have the same address. This is some Grey Gardens bullshit, and they're just parting me out. Like, they're just going to end the suffering. So that, and then I don't want to get eaten by cats. And it's a very real fear when you're over 40. And cats terrify me. I know there are people who love their cats, right? And they'll say, oh, I've got the best cats, they're the best. And you say, well, why are they great? Oh, they're so independent, they're not like dogs, they're so independent. Really? When was the last time they paid your PG&E bill? They are not independent. No, you've invited something into your house whose primary relationship orientation is ghosting. Right? Your cat will get out, go wander the neighborhood. He's like living with his other family and shit for a couple weeks. You're leaving food out. You're calling him, going, why isn't he getting back to me? He walks in 2 weeks later and is like, sup? What's your problem? Right? You're in an abusive relationship, you just don't realize it. So, but if you're over 40 and single, you start to send out a fucked up version of the bat signal, right? And I can deal with the bat signal. With a bat signal, I would get a billionaire with rock hard abs, mommy issues, and a high pain tolerance. And I know what to do with that. Like, that's my jam. But with your over 40, you send out the cat signal. And these things start hanging around your back door. Your friends try to give you a kitten when you've never wanted one. And Facebook, by the way, fuck Facebook. Facebook on my 40th birthday sent me 2 sponsored ads I'd never seen before. Our Time Dating for people over 50, which was like, just give it up, go for the old guy. And then cat adoption ads. I had never even liked a cat video on Facebook. I think they just figured she's single, she's 40, she needs some help. We're going to tell her to give up now. This is why I don't like Facebook. But they do. And if you bring them into your house, and let's face it, if you're over 40, you're going to bring in more than one, right? If you bring these things into your house, you're setting yourself up for a bad end. Because I know, as a woman in my 40s, I'm going to come home from a gig one night, and I'm going to be too tired to cook. I'm going to put the lean cuisine in the microwave. I'm not going to want to wait the full 3.5 minutes for it to thaw. So I'm going to take it out and choke to death on a half-thawed piece of chicken. Like, it's depressing, it's real. It's a real fear. And, like, I have dogs. So if I die, they will guard my body, and the other one will go and bark until the neighbors come over to see what's wrong, and I'll be okay. If I have cats, a day and a half in, they're all going to be looking at each other and going, you know what? I haven't seen any whiskas for 2 days. I guess it's fancy face tonight. And I'm not going out like that. But I do. I worry about people eating my face all the time. Like another thing I think I saw Silence of the Lambs way too young. But, like, now that I'm over 40, I worry about cannibals. And there's a reason for this. There's a reason. If you look at the history of people who've eaten people in the U.S., it's white guys in their late 30s and early 40s described as quiet, good neighbors, love their mother. Like, these are the people my grandmother will set me up with. Right? And I think I went out with one here in Sacramento. We were out on a date, white guy in his 40s, and he starts holding my hand on the first date, which was a little weird. He goes, ooh, you have really soft skin. I'll give you one. He said it a second time, and I'm like, you're getting a little creepy. And the third time, honest to God, he looks at me and goes, wow, you must use a lot of lotion. I'm like, this motherfucker's building a lady suit, and I'm the bargain bin at Joann Fabrics. Like, he's looking at me going, I can get slacks and a shirt out of that one. Fucking left Buffalo Bill sitting there in Starbucks, walked out past the rate then and kept going. But I did. I think I watched Silence of the Lambs too young because I'm pretty sure he would have eaten my face. And look, I'm all into having my pussies eat me, but it needs to be going down on my lady bits and not chawing on my face. I'm Auntie Vice. Thank you.
Hey, welcome back. This is the Brown Chicken, Brown Cow Show. I'm Laura, and I'm here with Monkey. And we're here with Richard Sprott.
Hello.
Hello. Can you give us the very short summary of yourself if you had to tell somebody in 2 minutes or less?
2 minutes or less. Okay.
No pressure.
No pressure. Let's see. Well, I like to begin with stating my professional side, which is I'm a developmental psychologist. For probably the past 12, 13, 14 years, I've been doing a lot of work on identity development and looking particularly at kink, BDSM, to a certain degree a little bit of polyamory, and I've got a number of research projects related to that going on. I teach at the Department of Human Development at Cal State East Bay in Hayward, and teach a little bit also for UC Berkeley, and then a couple of counseling psychology graduate programs for people who want to be therapists and counselors.
Awesome.
So you did mention a research project here or there. Can you expand on any of those?
Sure.
One is what I call my KISS project. Stands
Tell
for
me more.
Kink, Identity, and Sexuality Study. We did really long interviews, about an hour and a half to 2 hour interviews with about 72 people who have a variety of experiences with kink, and we asked them a lot about how they got into it, how do they think about their identities now, are they out, if so, how does that work? We ask them a lot of things about the different kinds of values and concepts that are really important to the kink community. How do they react to things like consent, the idea of a leather family, things like that. So we're pouring through the data. We published one paper that was on how kink allows people to explore their sexual orientation and gender identities.
Okay.
That was a lot of fun. There are some very interesting people out there and very complex genders and sexual orientation. So we published a paper on that, and right now we're doing one on people's early experiences of kink. So we're hearing stories like, when I was 5, we would do cowboys and Indians, or we would cops and robbers, and we would tie each other up. And actually the title of that paper is going to be, and there was a strange excitement. So we're looking at things like, so if people do, discover that they're kinky, where did it begin? How did they struggle with it? It's actually quite a lot of fun to really dive into people's lives
Yeah,
to that level of detail. So that's the one project.
That sounds like a lot to chew on, especially the amount of hours that you're putting into the interviews and the research, and then putting it all together. That's amazing.
And as we get into it, it's so complicated. Everything is so connected that every time I think, okay, well, we'll do a paper on this one little small part, and it's interconnected with all of these other things, I finally gave up and said, okay, this is a book. This is not an article. This is not 3 articles. This entire thing really needs the space to really explore how all of these, how sexuality and identity are really interconnected. So,
how far down the road are you on the book?
Silly
question, monkey.
I'm thinking about maybe doing an outline. How about that?
Gotcha.
No, it's
there's
just
a lot of data.
It's just okay. I realize this is so big it needs a book. So
Nice.
I'm just getting to that point.
Awesome.
Well, and what got you into this type of research? Like, what motivates you to find the answers to these questions?
Well, as a developmental psychologist, I kind of got started doing a lot of work with child development. And early on in my career, I also did a little bit of work with older adults, their language and cognitive, the changes that happen. But about 12, 14 years ago, I decided I really wanted to bring my personal side and my professional side together. And so what that meant was switching from children to doing adults, and in particular interest in sexuality, identity development. I kind of do both. Freud used to say that there's 2 main areas of life that essentially drive people crazy. That's love and work. So I do professional identity development projects, and I do sexual identity development projects. So making that decision, I looked around and I realized there was very, very little research done on kink and BDSM. And I thought that was because that was very understudied, and because people really do struggle around issues of shame, discrimination, prejudice around these sort of non-traditional sexualities, that my time would be best served really exploring that. So I've been doing that now, as I said, for about 12 years, almost 14 if you look at some of my early projects. So.
Gotcha.
That's really awesome, yeah.
You have written a book, Sexual Outsiders, right?
Yes.
It sounds like it kind of ties into some of what you just said.
It was a collaboration between me and a sex therapist in San Francisco. And we decided to write it together. The therapist would bring in these stories of clients and struggles that they had, his insights into how people manage sexual shame and coming out and a whole host of things. And I would bring the science side. I would bring the research side, and I would say, here's all the research, this is what we know about people's mental health, about how many people are into kink, those sorts of things. So together we wrote this book, Sexual Outsiders. When we started it, we meant it to be primarily directed towards therapists and counselors so that they would know a little bit when they encountered a client or a patient who was into kink or thinking about kink. And found a publisher, and the publisher said, that's great. Can you make it for a larger audience, a broader audience? Can you also write for just the curious, the curious person who may not be a therapist or counselor, but knows a little bit or has an interest in that? So we kind of said, okay, I think we can do that. And what I like about the book is that it's kind of an introduction, but it's one that really is informed by psychological theory and concerns around therapy and counseling, which I think lends a kind of a deeper perspective as to why do people do this and how do they struggle sometimes around it.
That's, I mean, we have one of our other co-hosts. They built Sex Positive Sacramento to help inform a number of therapists and stuff like that about not just the different terms that are out there, including the BDSM community and poly communities and stuff like that. So there's definitely a need for that. So thank you. That's fantastic.
Yes, I've found it very rewarding. I've been that's been a big push, especially for the past 6 or 7 years. Ever since 50 Shades of Grey came out, there certainly has been like requests and need. People are coming to their therapists or counselors and bringing in these topics that they just wouldn't really talk about before.
Right.
So that's good, I guess.
Well, and I think that's something we talk about in various communities as well. Do you know, a sex positive therapist or a polyamory friendly therapist? I have some, issues I want to come in and talk about, but it can be really hard if someone's like, well, that lifestyle is just completely inappropriate. And that's your problem right there. Like, how do you address real issues if you can't talk about things?
Yeah, we
So
hear
that's
a lot of
great.
those stories.
Yeah.
So yes.
So do you see that field of psychology kind of growing, looking into, sexuality and some of the mental health issues different groups are seeing?
I am. I think that actually in the past year, we have seen a big push on training and educating therapists and counselors in ways never really done before. So now I'm consulting with a number of programs that are trying to create online continuing education efforts for the mental health providers. And suddenly I'm like talking with 3 or 4 or 5 different outfits across the country because they realize how important it is to do this work. So, But that's really like blossomed in the past year. And before that, it was a struggle to, you know, try to find places where this kind of education of professionals could happen.
Yeah, I'm sure.
So
I'm sure that's great to see that.
yes,
expand.
I'm actually very hopeful. It's been a very, very good year. I think I really feel the shift happening finally.
Hooray.
Yeah.
Celebration.
So what can you tell me about CARAS?
That's my. It's got a horrible name. Community Academic Consortium for Research on Alternative Sexualities. So we call it CARAS.
CARAS.
And it's basically a research support nonprofit that I started with my co-author way back on the book. We started this organization plus another person who was a sociologist. And the three of us realized that there was very little work in terms of research done on kink and BDSM or polyamory, and that what little was done was kind of scattered, and a lot of people kind of working on their own, not having a lot of support. You know, we encountered so many, you know, doctoral students or graduate students who wanted to do something in this area, and their advisors or their supervisors would say, no, you can't do that, that'll kill your career, right? Or you can't do that, or maybe you can wait and do that in a couple of years after you get your degree. And so a lot of people who were interested did not have a lot of support. So we created this organization to really help support those people. We started also trying to raise a little bit of money to support research projects. And we started a conference where people could come and present. Because, and all of that to really start supporting people in getting into the published literature when it comes to the science. We did that on purpose because we know that if you're not in the published literature, then doctors and lawyers and judges and all sorts of these large institutions that have a big effect on people's lives would not know anything about kink, would continue to have a lot of bias and prejudice towards people who are practicing kink. And the only way to change that was to sort of like get into the system, which means getting into the scientific literature. So I think we've been pretty successful with that. A lot more is now published in this area than before. In fact, last week actually just a couple days ago, I got to do a class for a whole bunch of district attorneys and criminal prosecutors. A lot of them did not really know much about the organized kink community, and often when they're dealing with cases, somebody will say, well, that was consensual. A strangulation case or a case where somebody, got a whole bunch of bruises because it was very, very rough sex. And was that consensual or wasn't it? And so because they hear that so much as a defense, they did not know, well, so what is this kink community, and how does consent work, and how do we know if this person who we're thinking of, charging with a crime, whether we really should or not? I think things like that are starting to happen. So I'm happy, but a lot of it, when they come to me, they want to go, well, what can I point to? What can I cite? What can I, what's gonna be really legitimate in something like, court. So that's CARAS. That's really just about doing all of these things to kind of support that doing research and getting it out into the hands of people who are actually going to use it.
Well, that sounds like a great resource. I'm a biologist by trade, so I can commiserate on the effort to find sources or coming up with a great research idea that you're like, this is going to be so cool, and then your advisor's like, hold on, you might want to do something a little more traditional to get through your thesis, and then, you know, when you have a lab of your own, maybe you can establish some research on that. Like, it's a very, very common thing.
Yeah.
And they really want you to stay in the mainstream so you can learn that process. And it's great to hear that you're getting peer-reviewed articles out on this subject.
Yes.
And I think the more we get, the more people will know, and those citations become important. That kind of leads us into our next topic really easily. Can you tell us a little bit about the KINK training program? The KINK knowledge training program.
The KINK knowledge, well, that's one of the online educational efforts that I'm helping to work with and consult. I probably will teach a class or two for them. It's this idea that it's great to have a list of people who are kink knowledgeable or kink aware or kink friendly when it comes to therapists or counselors, because oftentimes people will want to find a therapist who's not going to freak out. I'm in a master-slave relationship, or I have a sexual partner where I really, really like to tie them up and be really rough. So while there are resources to try to locate kink-aware therapists, there isn't a lot of education or research out there. In a lot of states, the expectation is that if you're a counselor or therapist, you're going to get something like 10 or 12 or 15 hours of lecture on sexuality.
That's it.
And that's it.
Wow.
And there are a lot of states that don't even require that. So someone can become fully licensed and never have a class in human sexuality. So this is a program meant to address this need that sometimes people need a series of classes. I mean, as you guys have been talking, this is a vast topic. It requires more than one episode, right, to cover.
Absolutely.
So, so you can imagine that it's probably a good idea to have more than just one 3-hour class or 4-hour class if you're going to be working with clients or patients who might be kinky. So we're devising this. I'm working closely with some professionals in Washington, D.C. who are pulling this together, and it's getting very, very close to being fully available and online. It's doing a slow rollout, but I expect that it's going to be an important resource for therapists or counselors, and it's important for the larger kink community or sex-positive community to know, because you're going to want to tell your therapists or counselors, hey, this is a way for you to up your game. Take this series of online classes and know that what's being presented is the latest research, is the best practices that we know today. So I'm pretty happy to be involved in that project.
And do you know if that effort's going to be something that will be kind of updated over time as we continue to learn more, I assume?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. It's one of the things that it's sort of like my number one question with them. It's like, we're finding out things all the time. There is more research being worked on and published in this area. So how are we going to keep everybody up to date? And wrestling with that, I think, is really worth the time and the effort.
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
Absolutely.
So in a different subject, I see this commonly through different groups, but why do you think there's like some sort of like animosity or antagonism within like fringe communities like poly, kink, LGBT, against other members within the group. It feels like there's an internal
There's like that
discrimination.
internal struggle
Yeah.
of who's doing it best.
Or what I see often a lot
Appropriately.
of times is, wait a minute, we're okay, but those freaky people over there, and of course everybody's pointing to each other, right?
Yeah.
There's a couple of ideas. One of it has to do with, as any particular stigmatized community tries to gain more respect and more, access to resources and more, and experience less discrimination, that the pull to be seen as normal can often sometimes be established by pointing to the extremes and going, hey, we're not that. See, we're okay. So that's part of it, I think, is that there is a tremendous temptation to mainstream. And so often what that means is, let's polish the rough spots and pretend that this isn't really about sex or something like that.
Right.
Because sex is bad. So it's
Oh,
terrible. The monkey even knows that, right? The sex is bad.
He covered his eyes in shame there. That's,
I know.
So that's one thing. But the other, I think, is it's important to be sensitive that a lot of people who do find the LGBT community or the kink community or the poly community often have had to deal with a lot of wounds, a lot of shame, a lot of internalized homophobia or internalized kink phobia, or this idea that only monogamy is the healthy thing. When you're dealing with a lot of those things, a lot of people get wounded, and sometimes wounded people strike out. So I also try to be sensitive that a lot of this, what we sometimes call, collateral attacks, where you're attacking somebody else who actually you might have a lot in common with when it comes to dealing with the larger taboos or the issues of prejudice or stigma. I try to realize that, okay, sometimes these people just are coming from this wounded place. That doesn't make it right? It doesn't help.
make it easier to deal with either.
It certainly doesn't. But at the same time, it does allow for, okay, maybe they're coming from a place that we can actually address directly, like these places of internalized shame. That's a very psychologist point of view. So.
One of my partners is a psychologist, and so I get to hear some of these things in a different area and completely. But it's interesting to hear the dialogue and then how you go about it.
So I was going to say, kind of on top of that, what do you think we as a society, politically or what have you, can do to kind of change that stigma, whether it's inside our own community or as a society as a whole, to kind of make alternative sexual lifestyles more, I don't know if acceptable is the right word, and normal isn't really correct either. More of a social norm, maybe?
I think that that's a big question. I think actually it's an important thing to always to be addressing what I think is a lot of fear and this desire to control sexuality on the broader scale. So I think anything that we do that actually leads to a more positive view of sexuality, that sex is healthy, that sex is fun, that actually, one of the things I always point out is, and this culture has a problem with fun, right? This culture has a problem with play, you know, and as if that somehow in some way is a dirty, frivolous thing that you really shouldn't be doing, or to do it only in like the smallest confines of your life. And so anything I think that can help the entire culture have a more open and positive attitude about sex or play or fun in the long run is actually going to help. On a more specific level, there certainly is, I think, a need for people to, as much as they can, to talk about it, to come out about it. Coming out is very, very difficult. A lot of people have tremendous amount of risks in coming out, and I fully respect that this is an individual decision, and you have to weigh the risks and the benefits of being in the public when it comes to alternative sexualities.
Well,
but if you're in a position where you can do that, or you're willing to do that, then the more that happens, the more that people are going to be welcoming, or at least not so terribly negative. And maybe that will influence the way they vote, or maybe that'll influence the way they, how they interact with the legal system or the medical, our healthcare system or something like that. So those are a couple of things, right? Just really working on that general attitude and coming out when you can, and supporting those people who can come out, even if you can't.
right. Well, we've been talking a lot about your professional life, your professional ideas, and some of the ways to help people move through that. Let's get a little bit personal here. Are you active yourself in the kink and BDSM community?
I have been, I would say, involved since probably 22 years.
Okay. Can you tell us a little bit about your how you identify yourself?
I am, well, I've had a couple of titles. There are these title things in the leather community. I've done a couple of those. Only a couple. And I did them because, well, it kind of looked fun, but also it created a platform, a way of like trying to improve things for the community, which is what I wanted to do. So I have the title of San Francisco Leather Daddy 23 back in 2005.
No.
Can you also tell us what that means? Define.
Well, didn't you have a conversation earlier about what daddies are and all this? A leather daddy?
It's different for, to be a leather daddy versus a regular daddy. There's so many terms I need to learn.
I know. Well, that particular title was really one about somebody who would be seen as a more, sort of taking a more dominant position. But the title itself was about raising money and doing charity work and trying to support the community in San Francisco. So I was very happy to do that for a while. And then, so I primarily would identify as a master dominant. Daddy took a little bit of time, even though I ran for the title. I was like, I don't know, daddies are so cuddly and fuzzy, and I'm just not a cuddly, fuzzy person. I know I'm not.
The madam says you are. So.
No, I'm not. So, well, all right.
All right.
Although all of my submissives say I'm not mean enough, so maybe the truth is somewhere in the middle. I don't know.
I don't know. So that being said, you've been involved with the community for a while. What are some of your favorite resources, whether they're professional or personal, for either meeting other people, learning more about kink or BDSM stuff, or just sharing information? Like, what resources would you point, say, newbies towards, or people who've been around a while towards, to kind of get more involved or have more fun?
Well, there are a lot of books and a lot of websites out there, and you can find quite a lot if you just start digging. Nothing replaces an actual human connection. So I would say that there are at least in Northern California, there's a few in the Bay Area, some groups in Sacramento where people can go meet other people who've been doing this for a while. There are mentoring programs where you can get matched up with a mentor. There are educational opportunities where somebody will do a demonstration. This is how you hold a flogger. This is how these are the areas you want to spank if you want to spank. Everybody wants to spank, so that one's easy. So I would say that look for those local groups, look for a mentoring program. That's really the best way to do it.
Nice.
Awesome. Well, I think we're going to take a little break here.
Richard, thank you. You brought a lot for us to think about. Your career and life in this, both personal and professional, are just outstanding. I appreciate you coming and talking to us.
If they want to contact you or learn more about your organizations.
At Dr. Richard Sprott on Twitter.
Awesome.
Carisresearch.org is one website. I think if you Google me, I just have to warn, if you Google me, don't confuse me with a very nice and very good researcher in Washington, D.C. who researches the aging brain. That's not me. Okay. But almost everything else is. So.
Okay.
No aging brains for you.
No aging brains.
But you're easy to find online.
Yes.
Awesome.
Perfect.
Okay,
so sponsors.
Now you have to wrap it up this time. Go.
Awesome. So we're, I think, going to go talk a little bit about our sponsors. And I think then we're headed to donut time. So we'll talk about what we've learned today.
Good.
Hi guys, this is Sean Monkey McEnany, Monkey for short. What you need to know now is that brown chicken, brown cow needs your love. It needs your help, and personally, we could use your money. But short of that, what you need to do is go out and like our Facebook page. Number 2, give us a review on whatever podcast ability you have. Go out to iTunes, go out to Google Play, give us a good review because that helps. Number 3, subscribe. Subscribe to our podcast because that helps our numbers, helps us with advertisers, helps us with everything. It makes us look good, actually. And number 4, and this is very important, come close to the speaker. It's fantastic. You can go out to Patreon and support us on Patreon. That's patreon.com/BCBC podcast. You can support us at whatever level of support you think you can manage. I don't want you to give us money if you can't do it, but I want you to give us some money and we'll give you back some love as well. We'll give you back some stuff. We'll talk about you on the radio, who knows. But in the end, supporting us helps keep the show going. Subscribing to the podcast gives us better numbers. And liking our Facebook page, guess what? You always know when a show's coming. So, this is Monkey. You're you. We are together. Cuckoo, cuckoo. Fantastic. See you on the next show.
Definitely choking the monkey there.
I'm choking the monkey. Welcome back to the Brown Chicken Brown Cow Show. I am Monkey. These monkeys are 69ing, apparently.
I mean, they're not really. They're
Well,
just, the one's going
That's
down
a
on the
bad
other.
69.
They gotta turn the one around.
That's a 34 and a half. Okay.
I said 34 and a half.
Exactly.
It's a nice middling number.
Welcome, everyone, to Donut Time. Donut Time is a part of the show where we get to talk about things we learned, things we liked, and, of course, eat donuts. Today's donuts are brought to us by Pushkin's Bakery here in Sacramento. Pushkin's, they do some fantastic gluten-free bakery, and apparently Laura is just eating straight out of the box, so that's good.
Yep. Somebody had to. They're like these little puff things. So I was thinking I would want more than one, but then I only have 2 hands, and what if I want to gesticulate everywhere? It's just going to be a mess, so I'll keep the box.
I haven't even eaten yet. Your set was great.
Thank you.
Thank you. You were hilarious. welcome to the donut time.
I'm really happy to get
Yeah.
fed.
Yeah?
Yeah, I'll go for lots of places for good food.
Oh, well, food. Yeah, so
That's fair.
Laura, so I can
Yeah.
take a bite. What did you... Oh, stop!
That was the perfect time to do that.
The madam has her pastry, and it has a lot of icing on top. And apparently, yeah, God.
Does that
She's
count
being
as two?
suggestive with the icing. So there's that. Can I take a bite? Never mind. I'm not looking that way.
I like that you're asking us all for permission. So I think we actually learned a lot today. We got to define a lot of different kink terms, and we got to learn a lot about master-slave relationships, which I thought was pretty cool. And I think it's great to delve into that type of dynamic relationship because I think there are a lot of misconceptions out there about it.
I learned that apparently there's still not a lot of progress. We're making progress, but there's not a lot of progress in the mental health community. So that they, a lot of therapists out there can get their degree or get their certification without having to have a lot of sexual training. So it seems like that is a fantastic thing Richard's doing.
Right?
And so necessary. I mean, we like to pretend that sex isn't really that big of a deal. But my mother, who's a therapist, likes to point out sex may be about 10% of any relationship, but when that 10% is bad, it affects the other 90%.
That's an excellent way of saying that, too.
Yeah, it's like, it doesn't have to be your whole life, but when it's off, it's really off.
Yeah.
Really bad.
Yeah.
And so one of my partners, she let me borrow a few toys today. So here's one. Let's what is this called? Anyone?
Flapper.
A flapper?
Slapper.
Yeah.
You're doing that thing where you slap yourself with
Yeah,
things again?
I'm
Are
slapping.
you sure you're not going to hurt yourself?
It's stinging like hell. So that is. It makes a lot of really great noise, but and it has a nice weight to it. It's really fantastic.
Leaves fantastic marks.
Apparently, it leaves fantastic marks. I'm not marking myself with this toy, so.
You might have.
I hope so.
Oh, jeez. And then we've got a flog, right?
Yeah.
Look at this one, red and black. Two of my favorite colors. It's heavy too. I am surprised at the weight of this. Oh, there.
Yeah, that's a nice weight.
That one's called a mop.
A
Yeah.
mop.
It's
Yeah.
a short mop, but it's not full.
Yeah. My old favorite is always the let them fly on them. Yeah, that's a nice weight. And it's nicely weighted handle. It's pretty balanced.
Oh yeah. So that is, and like I said, I just like the color really. It's fantastic. We
Chooses his toys by color coordination.
Because
Yes.
they hurt less.
That would probably be accurate, too.
because they hurt less. This one
Ooh, you have to take that off.
is fuzzy.
No,
Oh,
that's
is
not
that
real.
just a
That's the
cover?
holder. That's the holder.
Oh,
I mean, you could probably use it. too,
holy
but-
moly! Look at this thing. From what I'm told, this is called Barney.
Yes.
Some people in the community, they actually name their favorite toys. I didn't know that was a thing. I guess you can name your car, you can name anything.
People name a lot of things.
They name their favorite toys. This is a metal object, I do believe. If you want to.
I was quite happy.
Super awesome.
Oh, that's
In the
nice.
freezer first.
Oh, put that in
Yeah.
the freezer
Oh,
first.
God.
Yeah,
I bet
for
that would.
temperature play.
Wow, she's hitting herself harder than I would have.
I might have some things in common with one of your partners.
So there's that, and then we have a nice little one here. This is made actually out of, I believe, bamboo.
I
Oh,
believe
nice.
you're correct.
So, yeah, this one's actually very nice. You see, it looks like it's almost like kitchenware.
Or, takes you back to your fraternity days.
I don't have those, but you want to see this one?
Yeah.
Oh. The audience is now asking
They're like,
these
"What?"
back.
Almost like a cribbage board.
Yeah,
Which
there you
also
go.
can work, but
Oh, in a pinch.
Pretty effective.
In a
Pervert
pinch.
that, Yeah.
I'm a big fan of pervertibles.
In a pinch, find your pervertibles.
Yeah.
There you go.
If you don't have a budget to buy the expensive toys,
Wreck a
make
dollar
a toy
stores.
out of anything.
Yeah.
And
Dollar
the best toy in the
stores.
world
Thrift stores.
is your brain.
Oh,
I
the best
would
toy in
say
the world is your brain.
clothespins.
That's
The brain helps you use them.
They do help you use them.
oh, madam. Hi, how you doing with that? Oh, jeez.
She's still eating it over there.
Yeah.
I
Hi.
learned that monkey didn't wear underwear today.
I wore underwear. I just said that
He
earlier.
didn't. Don't let him fool you. No underwear. It's the no pants show. I mean
I'm-
the no
I'm-
underpants show, because clearly we're wearing pants.
Pants. It's the pants show. I also learned that you can come on a show and not wear shoes. This is a a wonderful thing, apparently. I'm going to stop wearing my shoes and socks from now on.
I just want to point out, I made it the whole show without you pointing that out. So.
Well, I was saving it till now.
Besides, I have such cute feet. Why wouldn't I want to show them off?
It gets a whole nother dimension of viewers who are just tuning in for the feet shots.
Well, we didn't get a chance to ask you earlier. Where can people find you?
So I'm Auntie Vice on just about every piece of social media.
All the media.
All the media. And Twitter's probably the most active. And then I have a kink website, which is loveletterstoaunicorn.com. And you can find me there. I maintain an active calendar on that site, so classes I teach, performances I do, where I get naked, it's all on there. So you can find me there.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, the important thing.
Find where you get naked online. It's a pretty descriptive calendar.
It is. I get naked in public a lot.
It happens.
I prefer it that way. Like.
I hear you there.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's time to wrap it up.
I think so.
You wanna close it since this is your first time on the screen?
Not really.
Oh, okay.
I want to watch you close it.
You want me to? Oh dear. All right. Thank you everyone for watching. This is Monkey. That's Laura. You want to say hi one more time?
I'm Auntie Vice.
And this has been Brown Chicken, Brown Cow. Check us out on all the social medias. Like, she said all the social medias were out there. Go to our Facebook page, like us. Go to our this channel right here. Subscribe to the channel. It does help us. And do all the other things and love each other. Really. That's all it
and let
comes
us
down
know
to.
if you have any questions or
Spank each other?
serious
serious
information
questions.
needs that you'd want us to do more podcasts on. There are new monkeys, Janine. We have new monkeys.
We have, there's things happening. The Brown Chicken and Brown
Do you want
Cow
me to
now
fix
has...
those monkeys so they're actually $16.90?
It's an ambitious chicken. That's all I got to say. Is that is one ambitious chicken.
The cow looks like he knows what he's doing too.
Thank you for watching, everybody. See you next time.
For information on becoming a sponsor, advertising with us, or becoming a guest on our show, visit us at brownchickenbrowncowshow.com. All material in this show is copyrighted 2017 by the Brown Chicken Brown Cow Show and Podcast and Marry You Creative Solutions. All rights are reserved.